The old good one Fareinheits office. Remember when it first appeared? No? Then let me explain. It all started with a video about Prince of Persia Iceberg. It was a celebration of joy and happiness, all thanks to this video and help of tutorials. But after reading the comments on this video, I noticed that you weren't impressed by the video quality. And I agree with you, because now it's not impossible to watch the video due to the poor quality of the audio and monotony. I mean, you need somehow diversify the video, show different fragments and footage rather than just swapping on one continuous audio track and feeding it to your subscribers. It's a complete disgrace. But you know what? In this video, I will try to improve quality of everything, including the presentation of the content and its explanation. So sit back and relax. And don't be scared about the scary beginning of the video, because now we're really going to start this testing the iceberg of Prince of Persia. Well, before we start, join to Fareinheits office and Kindred Blaze Discord servers. And we begin. The first level of the iceberg contains simple and obvious facts and myths that are known to most fans of Prince of Persia. Therefore, we will start with this level and gradually move on. When Prince of Persia Warrior Within was released, most people claimed that all music in the game was written by band Godsmack. But only two songs are actually by them. It's I Stand Alone and Straight Out the Line. The other compositions were written by Stuart Chatter and Einan Zur, although Einan Zur did not write many sound effects for the game, so I can show you a list of all music by those people. The Battles of Prince of Persia is a turn-based strategy game set after the Sands of Time and the Forgotten Sands events. This game introduced characters such as the Haka, Maharaja, Farah Brother and many others. The game itself was only available in Nintendo DS, and if we are able to objective, this game reveals a good part of the plot of the Sands of Time trilogy. The teddy bear weapon is a secret weapon featured in the game Prince of Persia Warrior Within. Its special feature is that when it strikes an enemy, it drains the enemy health and restores yours. This weapon can be found in a mechanical tower in the past. Who do not consider Prince of Persia Forgotten Sands to be canon, and if they do know which part the story follows. In fact, the Forgotten Sands story follows the events of Sands of Time, then Battles of Prince of Persia, and only then the Prince of Persia Warrior Within. The Prince of Persia had one best friend, and that was Farzad. In fact, little is known about Farzad's story or about him himself, but the only thing that can be said for sure is that he was probably the prince's only friend throughout his entire life. Some even say that Farzad can be seen in one of the CGI cutscenes, but I don't think it's likely to be him, as there is no official confirmation of this. Pigeon Prince is a local meme in the Prince of Persia fandom. The essence of the meme was that in Thrones, the prince's facial expression strongly resembled that of Pigeon. In general, this meme has no direct context or double meaning. Most people believe that the prince was indifferent to people, but in fact he saved the lives of many people. For example, he pulled people out of the arena. He also pulled people out of the burning building, and there are many such examples. Therefore, it can be said that even when Prince's only goal was to take revenge on the vizier, he still thought about his people, because no matter how selfish the prince was, he still had honor and love for his people.
Three Princes in Warrior Within refers to the fact that throughout the game we see a total of 3 princes. The first prince would be the Sand Wraith that we encounter when we are Prince. The second prince is the prince that we control throughout the entire game. And the third prince is the prince that we encounter as the Sand Wraith. The first and third princes are the ones who die to the Dahaka, and the second prince is the one who survives and manages to change his fate. Top Zero refers to the cancelled sequel to Prince of Persia 2008. The team who developed the Naruto Rise of Ninja games were working on a sequel to Prince of Persia 2008 set in Egypt. The project was first coined as Prince of Persia Redemption and then went on to be named to Prince of Persia Oasis. The game went a completely new direction once again, and shared barely any resemblance to Prince of Persia, looking more like an Assassin's Creed game. The game was cancelled around the time Black Flag started development. Fans believed that the assets from Pop Zero went towards making Assassin's Creed Origins. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown took Anahita's design from Kindred Blades. In the earliest drafts of Prince of Persia 3, there existed a character known as Anahita. She is the goddess of water in Persian mythology and would have assisted the prince throughout the game. All we have from this character is this very low resolution art that was leaked from artist Bruno Gentile's folder. The creative director Abdelhak Elges, who created Anahita in Prince of Persia 3, went on to work with Ubisoft Montpellier to develop Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. In The Lost Crown, Elges would reuse the character of Anahita, even confirming it in an interview with Way Too Many Games. The leaked art of Anahita, even in low resolution, bears a resemblance to her design in The Lost Crown. Not only was her character reused, but also her design. Kindred Blades refers to a working title that the Montreal team used during E3 when developing Prince of Persia 3. Fans believe Kindred Blades to be a much darker version of Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones, as shown by the E3 trailer depicting Prince in a much more rugged and violent tone. Kindred Blades was only a working title, which means the team was going to change it at some point. The title was only meant to reference a key component of the game, which was Prince and Dark Prince. Old Man in Warrior Within. There is a theory that the Old Man would have played a much bigger role in Warrior Within's initial drafts. In magazines at the time, such as Score, publications spoke about the Old Man being by your side throughout the game and even guiding you. Voice lines found in the game's files show us that the Old Man would have also given commentary during gameplay.
I knew nothing good would come of this. I am sorry, my prince. It could end no other way. No man is stronger than fate. Madness. You're trying to do the impossible. Good luck, Prince. You're sure to need it. You cannot change your fate. No man can.
These were all cut and the Old Man was relegated to CGI cutscenes only. Prince of Persia Assassins. After the completion of The Sands of Time, Pop Team, led by Patrice Désilets, went on to work on a Prince of Persia game separate from the Sands trilogy. This project was known as Prince of Persia Assassins and would later change into Assassin's Creed. Désilets said that he believed that the project was going to be changed no matter what, and he just needed to convince Ubisoft higher-ups to make a new IP. Assassin's Creed would ultimately completely outsell Prince of Persia and basically bury the franchise for a long while.
Nimeharaja was the first person to reach the Island of Time alive and find the empty Sands of Time, the Dagger of Time, the Staff of Time, and the Amulet of Time. Nimeharaja's story is quite obscure, but the only thing we know about him is that he was able to change his fate on the Island of Time and not die there at the hands of the Sand Monster. When the Maharaja and his team entered the castle on the Island of Time, all they found was the empty hourglass and a few sand artifacts. But while exploring the castle, the Maharaja's team was killed, and the Maharaja himself was wounded. However, the Maharaja found the mask of the Sand Race and was able to change his fate and escape from the Island of Time alive. The Maharaja also had children, his daughter Farah, to whom he gave the Amulet of Time and told about the Sands of Time and why they are dangerous, and his son whose name was Kalim. In the game itself, namely in the catacombs, you can find the dead body of Maharaja, but this is not a concerned fact, since the theory of the body of Maharaja could also have been the altar with the mask of the Sand Race. The Haka's blood primarily refers to the powerful potions that increase strength in the 3D game Prince of Persia, named after the demonic multi-headed dragon the Haka from the Persian mythology, symbolizing fate and destruction. Also, this concept is also found in the other games and mythologies as the source of immense power or evil essence. Alchemists created the Haka's blood as a concoction that significantly increases strength of whoever drinks it, referencing to the formidable creature. It is no secret that after the Haka began hunting the prince, he became depressed and felt hopeless. The prince fled from the Haka for over 7 years, but he afraid even though he looked like a fierce warrior who knew no fear. But inside, that fear lived on. Even if the prince managed to hide from the Haka, it was only temporary. after which the Haka would repeatedly test the prince's life. This theory explains why the prince wanted to accept his death in catacombs. He knew that after all his actions, that the Haka would pursue the prince until his death. Kailin is quite an interesting character, but I always wondered where she got the idea that fate cannot be changed. Did she really believe that at first? Think about it. According to the stories, she is half-sand creature and half-human, so maybe she had her own life like everyone else? Or maybe she was influenced by her surroundings, especially her royal servant Shadi? Shadi told Kailina many times that the fate cannot be changed and the only thing to do is to accept it without trying to change anything. But unfortunately, we will never know it. Crowmaster is one of the enemies who stands out from the others on the island of time. He is the only one who does not attack the prince while he is lying on the ground, showing respect for his opponent. Sometimes it seems to me that Crowmaster may be also half sand monster and half human, since all enemies on the island of time have no respect or honor for prince, but Crowmaster does. Perhaps he was also one of the people who made it to the island of time, but unfortunately encountered the Empress of Time herself, who set him to prison and turned him into what we see in the game. After 7 years of running from the Haka, the prince could not live his life normally. He couldn't eat, relax, or even sleep. We can see this in the prince's appearance and describe him as a tired man who could not find the peace and sleep, a man who is always looking around as if he hiding from someone, or even from something terrible. The prince's sleep problems were so serious that even his father Sharaman noticed it. But the prince could not explain to his father why he couldn't sleep. Darius is one of the prince's warriors who was loyal to him and was the commander of army. When the Haka first attacked the prince in the battles of Prince of Persia, Darius managed to save the prince from the Haka's hands, sacrificing his own life. When the prince first entered the Fortress of Time, he felt uneasy being there. The Fortress of Time itself seems to have been built specifically for the prince to make him feel scared and confused, and even if it discarded the traps that were there, the very atmosphere of the island and its inhabitants made the prince feel frightened, hiding his fear behind screams and threats directed at the sand monsters. During the chase from the Haka, we can hear the Haka words that the prince is far from being the first person who disrupted the flow of time, and this is confirmed by the quote.
All who have come before you have fallen. Disrupt the timeline no further.
The words of the Haka suggest that even other people who tried to change their fate in the same way failed. But who are those people? Perhaps Kailina? Perhaps Maharaja? Unfortunately, we will never know this. In the earliest development of Prince of Persia War Within, the Sand Race had a completely different role. He was Kailina's servant who would send him to kill the prince. Unfortunately, due to poor image quality, we cannot see the original design of Sand Race. And also, the same situation applies to the Haka. Previously, the Haka was a prisoner of the Empress, and we can see this in the artwork, where the Haka is chained in a dark and quiet place. At the location with the arena where the prince kills Shadi, if the player reaches the top of the arena, they will find the items intended for torture, which make the atmosphere of the game much more frightening. Most likely, the human blood was used as a sacrifice to the Empress of Time, to bless her and show loyalty, or the blood was used to create stronger sand monsters. When the prince returned to the palace of time, he encountered the fires that reflected off the sand monsters, but among them was also the prince's mutated father, Sherman. and even thought it was his father. The prince killed him. But for the prince, he was no longer his father, but a just sandmaster who craved murder and cruelty. During the earliest development of Prince of Persia to thrones, there was, or at least exists, concept art where the prince was forced to fight against the Babylonian army and his best friend Farzad. This concept art was drawn by me and it's not official. It is only a reflection of how it could have looked. As you can see in the art, the prince and Farzad are somewhere in a tower, surrounded by wounded bodies and severed limbs, and only the prince, distinguished by his red bandage, stands to look at Farzad, who wants to kill him. Babylon will always be doomed to suffering and agony, and all because of Prince's actions. Even if the prince killed the Haka or killed the Empress of Time, Babylon will still burn in flames. The city of Babylon itself a cursed city, and the prince contributed greatly to this. The game itself tells us that fate cannot be changed, that if something meant to happen, it will happen. And the same is true of Babylon. No matter what the prince does, Babylon will always be shrouded in darkness and the blood of all innocent people. We all believe that the prince was able to complete his story, defeat the vizier, and most importantly, change and defeat his darker side, himself. But all these events were just a dream in the prince's imagination. There was no happy ending, no dark prince, and no death of the Empress of Time. In fact, it could be possible that the prince could have died after the battle on the ship with Shadid. The Mask of Sunrays is not just a temporal artifact, it is something beyond the flow of time. A second chance for anyone, and it may be the Mask of Sunrays was created not by Embers of Time, but by the gods themselves, the gods that exist in the world of Prince of Persia. Perhaps the mask is just a side effect of creation of time artifacts, but the question arises how it did appear. Perhaps the Empress of Time decided to create in an attempt to change her fate. Perhaps itself decided to do so. Perhaps the mask is the face of the very first person who ruled the sands of time. The mask of the Sunrays raised many questions. Although Vic knows that there are only two official confirmed people who used the mask to change their fate, namely the Prince of Persia and the Maharaja. The mask breaks the timeline, allowing one to return beyond the boundaries of time and correct everything that happened to person, but the mask cannot be simply removed to get rid of it. One must kill their copy, or the copy must die, and so that people cannot say anything about the mask or talk about the consequences of their actions, the mask take away their ability to speak or contact anyone. From the moment where the sense of time released from the hourglass, the prince cursed himself, breaking down the rest of the Empress of Time, who took away all his loved ones, his father, friends, acquaintances, and even beloved woman from Prince adored. The sense of time always honored the prince, as did their malice and fear which allowed the Dark Prince to be released into thrones. Perhaps the prince was able to finally free himself from the curse of the sense of time to thrones, while the residue of pain and sorrow he experienced did always live inside the prince. In Rhine mythology, the Haka is described as various kinds of snake-like mostly gigantic monsters living in the air, on earth, or in the sea. In mythology, he also is described as a dragon that pollutes the water. We can see something similar in the final of the game Prince of Persia Warrior Within, where the Haka falls into water and the water itself begins to turn black as the darkness. So the Haka rules through terror, famously depicted with serpents glowing from the shoulders, and is eventually defeated and imprisoned by the hero Freydon, on Mount of a man told his profession to return. His story highlights the classic struggle between good, Ahura Mazda, and evil Ahriman in Zoroastrianism. An interesting fact is that Ubisoft took many mythological creatures from Iranian and Persian mythology, as it can be seen in characters such as the Haka from Prince of Persia Warrior Within and Ahriman Prince of Persia Reboot. In the Nushat Al-Kuali, which is considered influenced by the IHF, author and historian Mandala Mustafi describes as Dacha as being terrible in appearance, with flaming eyes, a wide mouth, a body of enormous length. Like Ahatives, he also maintains that the dragon was the first serpent, and it was only after it became more than 30 years long that it became to be called Asdaha. After the Asdaha was cast into the sea by god of terrorism the people on land, it developed fins and continued to grow, causing damage in the sea. After it was killed, its body was cast up on the shore to provide food for the inhabitants of the land of God and Magog. In Kindred Blades, after the prince's doppelganger started chaos in the city, the prince's father had no choice but to capture the prince and kill him. The only problem was the Sharaman didn't know were true princes, and he mistook the evil clone for his real son and almost didn't kill him. Due to the lack of detailed information and at least some sketches of concept arts, I can show you this visually, only tell you about this. When we arrive at the prison of the Island of Time, we can hear rather quiet and painful cries, which indicates that in the past there were still captives on the Island of Time who were used as the vessel for sand monsters. We can listen to it right now. Most likely, not the only Maharaja's army wanted to reach the Island of Time, but also the other kingdoms. But the Maharaja and the prince were the only ones who managed to leave this island alive. So, dear viewers, in this video we took a fresh look at the iceberg on Prince of Persia. But before we finally move on to the end of the video, I will answer a few questions and explain a few things. The thing is, while watching the old video, I realized that there was no point in adding theories that did not carry any mysterious or creepy content, as they simply did not fit with the level of the icebergs. The old video will serve as an example of how much time has passed since I started working on content about Prince of Persia, and also as an example of how much my content and video editing skills have improved over this period. Yes, I plan to remake the combat system Prince of Persia like in Devil May Cry, but it will take the time and patience. I read the comments under the old iceberg and I realize that the video is simply impossible to watch due to its monotony and poor editing, and the use of my voice was another contributing factor. The video was remade so that viewers could watch it normally without feeling that it was boring and lacked editing. As I mentioned above, due to the lack of some sources of information, I simply could not show you what concepts would like, but of course in the remake this became less noticeable, so please understand me as a person. Not all information can be easily found, and some is impossible to find it at all. I would like to thank people such as Pub Tutorials for voicing level 2 of the iceberg and for helping with the video materials. I'm also grateful to the Discord servers Kindred Blades and Fareinheits office for their moral support and the help with the video. On a personal note, I would like to add that throughout the entire period we have gone through together, I am grateful for you for your activity and likes, which motivate me to continue making videos. I appreciate it very much. For now, I hope you like the remake, or at least that it looks much better than the old version. This was Fareinheits. I hope you have a great time, guys.